Welcome to Cyversity Engage webinar. On today's workshop, vulnerability assessment and pen testing in partnership with KSE Group. So glad for them to join us today. To our returning members, welcome. And if you're visiting or if you're a new member, welcome as well. Like to say Happy New Year to you. This is the chapter's first Engage event, but it won't be the last. So to those of you who are new to Cyversity, our Engage program is designed to grow, develop, and highlight careers, opportunities, and contributions of diverse talent within the cybersecurity space. Some of the topic areas covered are career development, career spotlight, transitions, leadership, as well as technology talks. Also, we include diversity highlights. I would also like to say Happy Black History Month. And you'll find a few other diversity communities highlighted in our program as well. Before I go into the agenda of today's event, I would like to let our listeners know that you're joined in listening mode only. But don't fret, you will get to participate in today's event during the Q&A session time. We ask that any questions that you have to please post them in the QA box to be addressed during that time. Also, this event is being recorded and will be available later on our website under on-demand resources. So I'll introduce you to our speakers for today. They'll do the presentation, QA, and then after that, you'll be provided with information on Cyversity, its membership benefits, as well as how to join, and be provided with some information on other upcoming events. I'd also like to take this time out before I turn things over to KSE to introduce our new leadership team members for the Cyversity Atlanta chapter. Of course, I'm Cassandra, the chapter president, not new, but also Felicia Hedgebeth, as well as Eric Logan are on the new leadership team members, and welcoming back is Jessica Johnson. And I'd like to congratulate her on a recent new family member. Lastly, you can communicate with the chapter on our Slack channel, join the Cyversity community as a whole, and then also engage with the chapter on our email, which is atlanta@cyversity.org. And so now, without further ado, I'll turn things over to KSE President Cameron Evans. Thank you all so much again for being here and partnering with us on today's event.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. We are so excited to be here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If I can steal that from you.
Okay, let me stop. There you go.
Awesome. All right. So good afternoon, everybody. We are elated to be here. We're so excited to be coming to you guys today and just being able to present some very technical information. My name is Cameron Evans. I am president of KSE Consulting Group. We have Solomon Ogieva. He is the COO of KSE. Elias Yassin, our leader, he's the CEO. We have Michael Asari, you can call him Kofi for short. And then we have Paul Browse. And so we're going to go ahead and tell you guys today about the basics of vulnerability assessments and penetration testing. The agenda today is we're going to walk through the 7 phases of penetration testing methodology so you can get a better feel about what a pen tester is, what do they actually do in their job. Then we'll go through some common vulnerability scan types. You'll learn a little bit about vulnerability scans when we go through those 7 phases. And then we'll have a demonstration of a vulnerability scan from our pen testing SMEs, Michael and Paul. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to our COO and our CEO, and let's get started.
Good afternoon here from everyone. It's a pleasure to have all of you. Shows your interest and dedication to the field of cybersecurity and information technology in general. Primarily today, we'll be talking about penetration testing and the various avenues that surround being a penetration tester and understanding ethical hacking. So as it says here, many of the companies that have learned about what it is to be attacked or to be for your system to be penetrated, you'd call someone who is doing that unethically, a bad actor, right? So that bad actor actually has many different ways that they can make your system vulnerable to their attack. So today we'll be identifying some of those. We'll be looking at the different type of exploits and the rules of engagement that allow such exploits to take place, and the ability for the organization to employ a penetration tester and an ethical hacker to exploit those types of vulnerabilities within their environment, of course, through following rules of engagement, right? We'll also look at the types of remediation plans that are available and the type of recommendations for remediation in the field of cybersecurity and penetration testing. We'll be looking specifically at the 7 phases of penetration testing and the methodologies that allow the rules of engagement to take place within a company and structured environment.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, Elias, if you could take us through those 7 phases of penetration testing.
Awesome. Okay, guys, thank you again for joining this workshop today. Thanks, Solomon. All right, so the first phase is called the pre-engagement planning, which is the planning and preparation, right? As an ethical hacker, as a penetration tester, the first thing that you have to do is you have to gather information, understand the system, right? Study the system, plan and prepare with the stakeholder that has hired you to do the penetration testing work, right? Now, in this phase, it does consist of discussing, agreeing what the scope is, the logistics, right? And like Salman mentioned, also the rules of engagement, right? You have to let them know what tools are being utilized, how you're going to be attacking the system or exploiting vulnerabilities. The reason behind that is because you have to ensure that the system is going to be able to allow that kind of exploitation to have in their environment without the system breaking. So it's very, very important as an ethical hacker to have a rule of engagement in place. And of course, the last thing is the timeline, right? We've got to ensure that the timeline is in place. We're going to start day 1 and it's going to end on day 30. Now, I'll go back to the slide one more time. It says you never want, and this highlight right here, it says you never want to bring in a penetration tester and let them run wild on your network. Hence why we have to plan and prepare. Okay. Next one is reconnaissance, basically information gathering, right? This phase consists of like using techniques such as open source intelligence, right? To better understand the target organization and network. Now, sources commonly used to gather information, it could be social media like Facebook, Instagram. In this case, it could be also LinkedIn or even the organization public website. Now, you might ask, why could LinkedIn be utilized to conduct information gathering, right? As an outside hacker, the first thing I'm always going to do is I want to understand who is in your environment, who is the CEO, who's the leaders, who's the executives. And at the same time, using LinkedIn, for example, I can actually extrapolate different information about you, and then from there, I can try to do a phishing attack to steal your information. Now you have phase 3, which is discovery, fingerprinting, and scanning, right? This phase consists of scanning and asset analysis, right? Typically, the tester will use a network scanning tool, which Paul and Michael will talk about. It's a network scanning tool. What it does is that tool, it will scan the network that the system is in, the organization network, and we'll try to identify all of the assets that are currently sitting within the network, right? That is the goal here for phase 3, is to discover all the assets, whether it's hardware, whether it's software, and identifying the systems within that network. Some examples could also be, right, when you're scanning an asset, you want to identify what kind of operating system it is, what kind of ports are open, and also what kind of services are running. Okay, phase 4 is vulnerability assessment, which is the initial exploitation, right? With phase 4, with vulnerability assessment initial exploitation, this phase consists of utilization of a vulnerability scanning tool that Paul and Michael are going to show later on to identify potential exploitable vulnerabilities. You guys will see exactly what the report is going to look like when Paul and Michael go in and talk about it. But basically here is once you identify the assets within the environment, the next phase will be you want to scan those assets and see, okay, what part of the system is vulnerable so I can go ahead and attack that system. Okay, phase 5, the 5th phase will be exploitation. Now, this is the part that differentiates a vulnerability management person and a pen tester. Everything from phase 1 to phase 4 is a vulnerability management analyst, right? Basically, what that person does is it will scan their environment, identify whether all the systems are in place, identifying, all the hardware, software. But when it comes to phase 5, this is the part where now, okay, you've identified all the vulnerabilities within the environment. Now, the next phase is to attempt to exploit those vulnerabilities. Now it's time to attack the system and see if you can break the system down and gain whatever access that you want to gain into within the system. Okay, can you go back one more time? One thing I want to mention here, one thing very important, and Solomon can attest to that as well, is a hacker's main goal, like Solomon mentioned, is they're hiring a good guy to act like a bad guy. Exactly. The reason behind is because one of the main goals of a hacker is to gain access to administrative privilege. Because once you get access to admin privileges within the system, you can go in and do many, many things within the system, from stealing information to even destroying the system. Thank you. Phase 6, which is the cleanup post-exploitation. This phase basically is once the ethical hacker, the penetration tester, has done all the work that needs to be done, the penetration tester must ensure that they remove any accounts that was created during the penetration testing phase. In addition to that, as a penetration tester, you have to ensure that you take that system back to its original state. Prior to you going into conducting the scans and creating accounts, everything that was before you started engaging, your system needs to go back to its original state. Lastly, of course, is the report generation. We do have, the penetration testing phase where you're exploiting vulnerabilities, so on and so forth. For a company, when they hire a penetration tester, the most important part of this entire work is report generation. As a penetration tester, you have to ensure that you're generating very concise and detailed report indicating what are the findings, how they were exploited, and what are the possible recommended solutions that you can implement to fix these findings. Now, as a penetration tester, you can provide recommendation. Of course, that is our job, correct? However, the company itself, once they get the report, they have to ensure that that fix that was recommended by the penetration tester actually makes sense within the environment. However, again, as a penetration tester, report generation is very, very important because that's gonna basically entail all the details of what was done during the entire penetration testing process.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
This said, go ahead.
Yep, thank you so much for that, Elias, walking us through the 7 phases of pen testing methodology. So we are going to now pass it over to some of our KSC pen testing SMEs. We're really excited to have them. They take out some time today to do this portion for us. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Michael and to Paul to discuss the common vulnerability scans that we're going to walk through.
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Kofi. I'm a pen tester with KSC Consulting Group and also a trainer as well. So within this phase, I'm going to take you through what vulnerability scans are. Could you go back to the previous slide? Yes. So as you can see on the screen, we do have common vulnerability scans. And within the 7 phase that Elias kind of take you guys through, you will notice that he kept talking about reconnaissance, exploitation, And then there's an aspect where we go through scanning. And when you are scanning a network, what will you be looking out for? The very first thing that you want to do is to find whether there's a vulnerability. Because if there's no vulnerability, then there's no point you proceeding with your exploitation. So you first need to identify whether there are vulnerabilities on the network. So, and where can we find these vulnerabilities? You and I have access to internet in our homes. We have access to internet in our workplaces, right? You have computers that you use that are connected to a local network. And again, besides that, you also use websites. You have browsers that you connect to. All those, both the network and the website can have vulnerabilities, right? When you have loopholes that hackers or malicious attackers would utilize. So to begin with, I'll talk about network scans. So like I mentioned, at your workplace, at your homes, you do have network assets that are on your network. And what hackers will be looking out for is to find what assets are vulnerable, and then also to know the list of devices that are on your network or those that are not. And so as we can see that the purpose of having a network scan is to enumerate the list of hardware and software that you have on your network. It could also even tell you the services that run on the network. And to do so, we usually start with the IP addresses. So you could use an IPv4 or an IPv6. And so with the example that you have on the screen, we do have an example of using a tool called Nmap. And Nmap is a free open source tool for network discovery and security. So basically what you have to do is just to have access to the Nmap. We have Zinmap for the guest user interface, which you can just install on your browser, on your desktop and use it. But then if you know command line interface, then you can use the one that we have on our screen. And so when you do the Nmap command, you just type the Nmap command plus the IP address. We do have flags that we can. Then it will give you the ports that are open. And from there, you can identify the ports that you want to exploit. Can we go to the next page?
Yep, and just to add on to that, so just to kind of sum that up, so we have network discovery scans. One of the free and open source tools you can use is Nmap. It is to identify any sort of devices, hardware, software that you have on the network, and a possible vulnerability that you may be able to identify right away is if there's a rogue host that should not be on your network.
All right. So besides the network scans, you can also find weaknesses on a website. There are situations where if you may have come across what we call a cross-site scripting, or you can talk about data injection or cross-site request forgery. And also you've heard about brute force attacks. And all these are vulnerabilities that a website could be vulnerable to. So let's say you want to connect with KSC Consulting Group, our website. You'd have your Mozilla Firefox that you have, and then you type our web application or website address on your browser. Now, there's interaction between that browser and then our website. So you could have malicious attackers intercepting the traffic between the browser and the website that you are trying to reach out to. So this is to score the point that there are vulnerabilities on website. And there are so many tools that can be used to kind of test for vulnerabilities. And one of the tools that is really, really common is called Burp Suite. So with Burp Suite, you can scan a network and it tells you the list of vulnerabilities like passwords that are in a plain text. You could also even utilize this to intercept network data that is being sent between the browser and the website. So that would be for vulnerability application scans. Let's go to the next one.
All right, so we actually have gone through two very common types of scans. Before we actually get into our demonstration, I'm going to give Paul an opportunity to add something onto web application scans or network mapping scans.
Sure, thank you, Cam. So in Burp Suite, not only do you have the ability to scan a web application for these vulnerabilities, but Burp Suite also gives you the ability to exploit those vulnerabilities. So for instance, you can do SQL injection with Burp Suite. That's one of the benefits of having that tool. And then for network scans, as Kofi was saying, when you look at what is in your network, if you have as Cam pointed out, if you have a rogue host in your network, that could be something malicious, right? A hacker may have gotten into your network and could be snooping on your traffic. So that's an example for that. I'm going to go ahead to the next two. Okay, so we're going to talk about authenticated scans and unauthenticated scans. And what we're going to do is give you a demonstration of that today. We're going to give you the demonstration of the unauthenticated scan. I will go through the process of how you would do an authenticated scan, where you would put your credentials. The tool that we're going to be using today is Nessus. So Nessus is actually a free to download. You can get the Nessus Essentials. You do have to sign up utilizing an email, and then they send you the key to that email. So if anybody would like, they can actually do that. You can, if there's anybody in the audience is familiar with Kali Linux, you can actually install it within your Kali Linux box. You can install it within your Windows box as well. And yeah, it utilizes the browser in order to interface. So an authenticated scan reports weaknesses exposed to the authenticated users of the system, as all the hosted services can be accessed with the right set of credentials. So for that authenticated scan, it would be as if in your organization, you have to log in with a username and password. So it'd be as if the Nessus scan is performing that scan from your point of view. Somebody from outside of your network will not necessarily have access to that. So if in penetration testing, we have black box, gray box, and then white box for penetration testing. So black box penetration testing is literally you have basically no knowledge of the network. You're going to start from the perspective that a bad guy would start from. And then gray box, you may have some knowledge of what's in the network, and you may have some knowledge of what type of components are on that network. And then, of course, the white box, you're going to have full knowledge. You're going to have all of their design documents and things like that. So for the unauthenticated scan, again, that would be somebody from the outside looking in, and they're probing your network. So as Elias had pointed out in one of the previous slides, when you conduct a penetration test, you have to gather information. And from that information, you have to then pick your attack vector. Okay. Now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and do a demonstration. So I'm going to steal the screen from you, Cam.
Yep. And just to let everybody know, please pour your questions into the Q&A. We're going to get to everything. We'll have a nice big block of time to go through all the questions.
Okay, and you should be able to see my screen.
Real quickly, Robert Joseph says he'll be leaving in about 5 minutes. So let's go ahead and answer his question. Robert, his question is, how much is IPv6 being used nowadays? Being that it is obviously the future. I'll let one of you cover that.
Okay. Right now, currently, the most used obviously is IPv4, right? IPv6, it is used by some companies, but it's not common yet because IPv6, it is a little bit more complex. And obviously for the folks, Robert is asking that because IPv6, I know with IPv4, it's like a 10.0.0.10, right? It's like a four, like grouped in fours. But IPv6, the reason why it was created is because all IPv4's IPs are being taken over, and there'll be no more left. So IPv6 is being created to expand the IP ranges. Now, to answer the question, it's I've seen some, but it's not common yet.
Yes, and there are some agencies, we won't mention any, but there are some agencies currently using IPv6 and have been using IPv6 for purposes of speed and securing the nation. All right, but yeah, we'll go ahead. Have your questions come in. Lonnie, we'll definitely get to your question a little later. I think that's a very good question for everyone to piggyback on. Go ahead, Paul.
Go ahead, Paul. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So as you can see, this is my dashboard for Nessus. I've already logged in, and this would be what you would encounter for the Nessus Essentials. So if you want to perform a new scan, which is what we'll go ahead and do, just to show you the setup, I'll run through where you would put your credentials if you're performing an authenticated scan. 1 second. So click on new scan. And then once you get here, Nessus provides a lot of various scan templates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the advanced scan. And then this is the area where if you've already conducted a scan on a network, but let's say they have a dynamic set of IPs, you would have to come in to this area and ensure that all of your IP addresses are correct. So if my target were to say fluctuate in go up or down in range of IP addresses, I would need to ensure that my target IP address is correct. And this is the area that I would do that in, okay? So you can give it a name. So we're gonna call this Windows XP, and then we could do today's date. You can type in a description if you want. You can select what folder it'll go to. You can set up a schedule. You can set up a notification that it will actually email the recipient, say, hey, scan is completed. You need some further SMTP server configuration. But the big thing is credentials, right, for an authenticated scan. So depending on what type of host you're going to have, if it's a Linux, you would need the SSH. For Windows, come down to Windows, and then it gives you the authentication method. Depending on what you use within your environment, you may need Kerberos, or you may just need username and password. So in that event, you would enter in your username and password in here, and once you're done, you would hit save at the bottom of the screen. You can also look at the plugins that have been enabled for this advanced scan. The other thing that Nessus does,
Oh, you mind if I jump in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So go back to the plugins real quick.
Sure.
So for everybody looking at this and saying, what is this exactly? So plugins are basically, it is a tool within, I'm putting air quotes, it's a tool within Nessus that can be used to scan for specific things, right? For example, if you look at, let's say this second one, it says scientific Linux local security checks. Or if you look at the third to last, which is Windows, right, or the web servers, basically what that is it tells Nessus, hey, can you please check for this specific possible vulnerabilities for this Windows, or can you go to the web servers and check for these specific vulnerabilities associated with web servers? So whenever you initiate a scan within Nessus, you have to make sure you pick the right plugins, right, to ensure. It's like whenever there's a situation, whenever there's an emergency, for example, right? If there's a fire, you're not going to send the police department. You're going to send the fire department, right? Same thing here. For a specific issue you want to scan for, you want to pick the right plugin to ensure that it is being scanned accordingly. Sorry, Paul, you're good.
Yep, no, perfect, perfect summary up there. The other thing that I was going to say about Nessus is it can conduct compliance scans. So if within your environment you utilize the DISA STIGs, and the STIG is the Security Technical Implementation Guide, it can conduct that kind of compliance scan for you, help you to make sure that your configurations are as hardened as they can be. Okay. Now back to made sure that my target IP address is correct. I've given it a name. I selected the advanced dynamic scan. I'm going to hit save. Now it's asking me for my username and password. Just going to do this over again.
We see your questions, very good questions coming in. We're going to answer all of these openly, so keep them coming in that way. As soon as we're done, we're going to jump into answering questions. Cameron is moderating time and kind of keeping us to schedule. Thank you.
Yep. And so we got about 4 minutes left for Paul and Michael. So let's do
It's giving
this.
me, of course, with
And so while Paul is also adding that in, I just want to let everyone know that there is something called Tenable University. You can actually go, so Tenable is the company and Nessus is the product. So you can actually go to Tenable University, and there's a lot of free courses there as well and trainings on scanning.
Oh, yes. Come in a
so
little bit.
this is giving me a little bit of issues. So I'm going to go back to a scan that I already have set up.
Gotcha. Yeah, Paul, you can also have the drop down from the save.
A minute, Paul. So we can click on a new scan and then click on advanced scan.
Mm-hmm.
So after clicking on advanced scan, Paul, can you type the name of the scan over? And then also when I was talking about the network scan, I mentioned IP addresses. So we have our machines to the left, our vulnerable machine, which he will be providing us with its IP address. Oh, sorry, that's the Windows XP. So that's the IP address of the Windows, and then you click on this drop-down arrow and launch it.
Mm-hmm.
As quick, as easy as it is.
All right, so we're gonna actually do this like a cooking show. And so we actually have some results ready to go. It does take a little bit of time. So just imagine we put it in the oven and it
Okay.
cooks.
So this is the one that we just created. So what happens is that once you're about to initiate a scan, everything from the template that you have, it will populate in my scan. So this is the one that we just did. So what you can do is just come to the right, see this play sign, you just click on it. Now, when you click on it, it will initiate the scan depending on, sometimes it may take 10 minutes, sometimes it may take 5 minutes, but you see that it will begin to scan the network. So I just clicked on it. Oh, this is an old one. So let me go back to the previous scan so that you have a look at what is happening.
So this is the scan right here. the most recent scan of the environment that we're scanning right now. So from this dashboard, you can see that it gives you the number of vulnerabilities in the dark, call it maroon, burgundy. These are the critical vulnerabilities. And then these are the number of high vulnerabilities and number of medium. And then you have informational, which is something that may be, hey, you need to be aware of this, but it's not, it may not have any exploits or anything like that. And then we have the vulnerability window, which it will actually come up. It'll give you that color coding. When you click on it, it gives you the description. It gives you a solution. You can also look at various websites that will give you more information on that. And of course, it'll tell you, so we only have the one host that we're scanning right now. If there were multiple hosts, let's say between 5 and 10 different hosts, if all of them had the same vulnerability, all hosts would be listed here. Let's say only 5 out of the 10 had that same vulnerability, then those hosts would be listed here. The other thing that you can do is you can create a report out of this, and you can create it in an HTML format, a PDF format, or a CSV. Once you generate the report,
Also, just the CSV stands for comma separated values. It will normally come up as an Excel sheet.
Mm-hmm.
it always seems to take longer when I'm presenting. So
That's
to
why you gotta
save
do like a
time,
cooking show.
I did I did already conduct, or I conducted a scan. I generated a report, and this report is in the CSV format, which I then converted to Excel. So you can then create a filters to go ahead and filter. If you need to pick out a specific host, you can filter on that specific host. In this instance, I filtered on the critical and high vulnerabilities. So once it does, it gives you the name of the plugin that detected the vulnerability. It gives you a CVE. So there is the website that will tell you, if you Google the CVE, or you go to NIST and you search by that CVE, it will give you more information on that vulnerability.
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
So going back to the phase, basically, this is the part where the other hat, where the pen tester comes in, once they're conducting the scans, now, which is phase 5 starts when they start the exploitation. So we have the critical and the highs, and that's when the pen tester will start exploiting using these vulnerabilities and trying to see how they can infiltrate the system. But Paul,
Exactly.
but Paul, Coffee,
Yes.
and Paul and Mike, and Kofi in this case, thank you so much. I know you guys are doing a lot of work right now, and thank you for taking the time to jump in and do this presentation,
Yep.
Cam.
I'm gonna go ahead and steal the screen back from you, Paul.
Sure.
So, guys, if we had maybe like another hour or a week, we could definitely go through exploiting these vulnerabilities, but that might take a little time. Yep, go ahead.
Are we ready to run through the questions?
Well, let me go to our last slide that
Sure,
just
for sure,
says
sorry.
thank you. And then you guys can go ahead and ask your questions. I'm so glad Solomon is managing that. So, again, thank you all so much for joining. Again, Michael and Paul, they are our pen testing SMEs. They, took a break to come and do this and run through some scans. So, we were really excited to do this, and we thank Cyversity as well for the opportunity. Again, I'm Cameron Solomon Elias, and now we will go ahead and start walking through some of your questions. If you want to go ahead, Solomon.
Absolutely. All right, I see you guys have been pouring these questions in. You guys didn't wait until the end. We'll start with Brenda Hernandez. She's asking, why would you use Nexus versus Burp Suite for a web app scan?
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Why would you use Nexus versus Burp Suite for a web app scan, a web application scan?
So Nessus does have the ability to do web application scans, 100% right. However, the reason why Burp Suite is because Burp Suite is the tool that had been used by many, many pen testers, and it actually have a lot more ability as compared to Nessus. And Burp Suite has the capability more than Nessus or even Rapid7 to conduct different kind of scans on web applications, you know. And then plus it's a preference thing, but Burp Suite is something that's used by a lot of pen testers.
Absolutely. Okay. Next, we have Mr. Yusen. Okay, I don't know if this is a Yusen Chu. Hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Do you have some suggestions for non-U.S. citizens that want to get into the penetration testing job market in the U.S.? Cameron, you want to take this?
Well, I would say that there's a lot of international companies. I mean, I have a very good friend. His name is Roland, and he actually is based out of Switzerland and works with a bunch of European companies. And he does pen testing, and he's very successful. So penetration testing is not limited to the US at all. I would say if you do have any roadblockers, just the way we are at KSC is just make it happen and figure out what works best for you. But you might need to, you know, check on an overseas international company like you, Elias. And you want to talk a little bit about some of the work you do with international companies?
Yeah, so there was actually 2 contracts that we were working on, which is one of them is with a company out of London, and there's another company based out of Canada. So unless you're trying to get into the federal space, right, which definitely requires to be U.S. citizen or a green card holder, there's a lot of international companies as well as private companies within the United States that are always open to hire people who are non-U.S. citizens or non-permanent residents. So do not get discouraged thinking that you won't be able to get a job in this field. No, just especially in the cybersecurity field, if you're technical, like in the pen testing world and vulnerability management, there's always a need for that position.
All right. I know there was someone that asked initially about, I don't know if I'll see it again, but I don't see it up here, of how to get started. If you did not know anything about penetration testing, you know, how could you get started in this field?
So one thing I'll say is one of my really smart pen tester friends, well, actually they're one of KSC's pen tester friends. She sent me over a website that helped you practice the top 10 OWASP. You know, just actually going in, it's almost like a game. I'm actually going to bring Paul and Michael into this conversation because there are a lot of different games, so to speak, and websites that you can go to and you can kind of play around and learn. Do you guys want to answer that question about how to get started?
Oh, for sure. There are several websites out there. The top ones that come to mind, Try Hack Me, and Hack the Box. So to actually get into Hack the Box, you would literally you have to hack your way in. It's a very simple hack, but that's the only way you get the invitation code. And then Try Hack Me, they have a free and a paid version of Try Hack Me, and you can set up attack boxes and vulnerable boxes, and they have activities that you run through.
Kofi, did you want to add something there? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute, Kofi. You're on mute.
All right, so Paul has suggested Try Hack Me, which I also do recommend, so they could go and look it up.
All right, that was for Lonnie Samantha Myers. I hope you got those answers. Thank you. Let's run through the rest of these quickly. You guys are pointing tons of questions. Don't know if we'll be able to run through all of them, but we're going to try. What are some authenticated? This is from Mion, M-I-O-N. What are some other authenticated scan softwares which are highly recommended in the market? Paul, you wanna list a few?
Rapid7, Qualys,
Greenbone.
yeah, Greenbone. Trying to think. I know Qualys and Rapid7 are Nextpost 7. Yeah, those are the ones that come to mind right away.
And then with AWS, if they want to perform vulnerability scan, they should look at AWS service called Inspector.
Very good. All right, Kevin Tucker, I'm gonna just paraphrase your long question about illegal tools and setting up your own network at home. Kofi, I know this is something that you talk about a lot, is kind of, utilizing your home network as practicing tools. You want to talk about that a little bit? And he also asks about being able to compromise someone's home protection, like Netgear, for example. What are some recommendations for Kevin Tucker?
Hold on, before you answer the question. That's a serious question right there.
I mean,
Either Kevin's been through something or
Yeah.
he's trying to put somebody
I
through
know,
something.
I
I don't know
mean-
which one it is.
Kevin, that's
So
a very
before-
long and-
Before Kofi answers that, we want to remind you, hack ethically, right?
Yes.
Never hack without permission, because that is illegal. But to kind of add to what Kevin is asking, there are so many labs out there that you can set up in virtual machines on your own desktop. There's a lot of vulnerable machines that have been designed by people to enable you to attack them. So there's a lot of that information out there, and I'll go ahead and pass it on to Kofi now.
All right, Paul has already answered my question in half. Uh, anyway, we do have classes where we train people. We have apprenticeship program where we train people in technical, this kind of technical direction. So like Paul mentioned, you will need a virtual box where you can have virtual machines, and then you perform the task on it. Other than that, you are not allowed to hack into or scan any IP which is not owned by you. It's illegal. So you would have to probably reach out, check on VirtualBox, or reach out to us later, and then we'll show you how it's done properly.
All right, I'm gonna speed this along a little bit. There's a few of you asking how to get started, asking about our company, asking about our Discord link in which you can reach our lead advisors, Michael and Kofi in penetration testing. They are instructors. They're soon going to be our lead trainers as well. So I'll let Cameron take this. Cam, do you also want to provide the link as well?
Yeah, definitely. So we can definitely provide you guys the link. Actually, if you go to our website, right on the homepage, you'll see where you can join our Discord. You just click on that. It'll take you to the Discord, but we can definitely provide the link as well. So yeah, as far as getting started, I mean, there's so many ways. One thing we like to emphasize is definitely just know your craft, right? Be very, very skilled. You need the certifications. There's something called a CEH, a Certified Ethical Hacking Certification. You'll see all that at our website as well. But there's so many ways to get started. Now, Solomon, I did want to see and maybe take a poll.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to see us actually pull up one of those vulnerabilities and, maybe kind of walk through how you might exploit it? Because that might show you that the way to really get started is to understand OWASP Top 10.
I agree.
What do you actually do on the job?
Well, let's ask Cassandra, what do we have time, right?
Well, we have about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, well, actually about maybe a little less than that,
Oh.
because there are a couple of things I need to cover before we end promptly at 1.
Yep.
So yeah, just saying.
All right.
that.
All right. Well,
Paul, is this, because I know Paul kind of wanted to show it, with all those questions, and it seems like a lot of people are really interested in the nitty gritty. Paul, do you think it's something that you can just
So-
share? Yep.
I'll share if you guys want to keep answering questions.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, let's
Go
do
ahead,
that
Solomon.
simultaneously.
yeah, absolutely.
right. And then hopefully I can get it done in time. So I'm going to show you the machine that I'm actually attacking. So this is Windows XP, and if anybody's been around for a while, Windows XP is way out of date and no longer being provided any security patching. So I just run a simple command. I wanted to get the IP address for my the machine I'm going to attack. And also I'm going to do a little, this will come in into play here in a moment. So I just did a little echo command. So now within my Kali box, I'm going to spin up Metasploit console. All right, so with Metasploit console, there's a lot of different things that you can do. Now, one of the, before I do that, I want to show one thing here in the report. We had a number of SMB vulnerabilities. So that's going to come into play. And basically, I'm going to do a search for SMB, and I get a number of different payloads that I can execute within Metasploit to take advantage of SMB. So for this particular one, I'm going to pick number 40 here. It's the BSEC. So now that I have that, I'm going to tell it what to attack. Okay, now interpreter is up and running. It's delivered the payload. Now to actually do something, I'm going to help command tells you all the different things that you get to do. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take a screenshot, and it's going to send or take a picture of exactly what's on that screen. Now it's delivered to the my Kali box in my folder. It's delivered me a screenshot, and that was the screenshot right here. So as you can see on the box, on the vulnerable box that I had, you get to see a screenshot of exactly what was on that screen. As you can see right here. So that's just like a quick and dirty exploit. You could also do sysinfo, and I can figure out. So now I know exactly what the computer's name is, the operating system, even the service pack, the domain that it's on, and how many people are logged in. All right, that was a quick demonstration. I'll turn it back to you, Cam.
I really appreciate that. I think we came in at good time there. So yeah, so we are running through some of these questions. We've, posted our Discord link in there. Also Tenable University, there's a long link that should be under that question as well. Solomon, was there any other questions that you wanted to go through? I think we have about 30 seconds before we get the.
We're gonna do our best. I'm pretty sure we can't get through all of these.
Yeah.
You do have a
So-
couple of minutes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So if
All
you
right.
could give it
So
back to
Elias
me, say
is
about
going
3
through.
minutes still.
Sure, Ellis is going through most of these, but let me find one that may be beneficial to everyone. All right, we just did that. Hope you got a chance to see it. Are there events that are more in-depth or more advanced? Does anyone want to talk about any of the any of the events we have coming up that we could possibly invite them to, that will cover a little bit more in-depth information on pen testing?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, absolutely. Definitely just connect with us on our Discord. So Paul is actually the moderator on our Discord. So, I mean, any questions that you have, there's so many certifications you can get, so many different levels. We really, really suggest you go to Try Hack Me and just kind of get your hands and, get those reps in, right? So that you can really get the skill. Definitely get that certification. CEH is a really good one to start with. But yeah, if you join our Discord, you'll get all that information and you'll also be able to follow along with different questions from other people in our community. Yep.
Once you register, you would have to register on Discord, right? So that link that was provided, you click on that link, or you can go directly to our website to get to that link. You have to actually become a member of Discord to be able to access the link effectively. So please go through that step. It's a very good platform for sharing information and communication. So we use it vastly, and you'll find a lot of good information on there for us.
We got
and
a flood of people into our Discord.
Yay!
Yes.
Like I'm really appreciating. Okay, so I want to ask this question. Yep, I see Elias is like, he's like, we got to ask us. Another question from Mion. Is there an on-to-go tool with the GUI to do an auto web scan? Michael, did you understand that question? It says, is there an on-to-go tool with a GUI?
Probably means on the go.
On the go tool.
Yeah.
To do an auto web scan.
So just, by the way, all these tools that we're showing you, 99% of them are automated tools. So
Absolutely.
all you have to do is enter the URLs or enter the IP addresses and just pick the right policy
And start exploring,
configure and just hit scan. Yeah.
So all the tools that we've mentioned, Mian, they will be able to do an auto web scan of your home, all your generic tools or your home network. So,
But the hardest part of a pen tester is not the scanning part.
Yeah.
Or exploiting part. The hardest part is the ability to decipher that report and being able to explain how that exploitation is affecting the environment.
absolutely.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna give some last words to Paul and Michael. Did you
can
guys
click on
want
answer
to?
live for that one. Elias.
Yes.
Yeah.
You wanna say- sorry,
to
Cassandra.
interrupt, guys. We're about 3 minutes until the hour. So I need to go over a couple of things. I hate to interrupt. This is great conversation. And maybe you guys should come back and do a part 2.
Hey, let us know. We'll be there.
Just the part 2,
Right.
Cassandra? I thought you were gonna ask us to come back like every month.
Well, okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All
Yep.
right. So speaking of ethical hacking, EC Council is a partner with Cyversity and has provided 10 complimentary iLearning certificate courses for Cyversity chapter members. If you are interested in obtaining this certificate and taking the course, taking advantage of this free training, please email me at cassandra.dacus@cyversity.org. Or if you can't remember that, just reach out at atlanta@cyversity.org as well. Okay?
Yep.
All righty.
We appreciate all of you, especially those of you giving us feedback and comments. It's super important. We do this a lot, but it's always important to get feedback, especially when we are talking to a new audience. And we definitely want to thank you, Cassandra, for expanding our relationship and allowing us to meet the Cyversity community and work with you and start our journey as we make the impact that we've talked about making. So this has been a pleasure, and we appreciate all of you.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm grateful for this opportunity as our members and visitors with us today. So thank you. And we'll definitely have that discussion of a part 2 or other upcoming events together. So
But
before
please, next time we want to come to Atlanta.
Okay, all right. Well,
Invite
Elias,
us,
we're gonna
yes.
work on that. Definitely, we'll work on that.
Cassandra, I believe Paulette is asking for your email in one of the questions here.
Okay, let me post that in the chat real quick.
Very good.
Also, while I'm doing that, I would like to remind everyone there's a link with for a survey to complete. We ask that you complete that regarding today's event and greatly appreciate it. We're also having a local event today at Atlantucky's to continue the communication and the conversation on diversity, cybersecurity. So grateful to Dan and Vaughn of Ransom Shield to help put this meetup event together in partnership with Cyversity. Again, that's later this afternoon at 5:30. I think we had a registration that has been sold out. So if you registered, please, and you're local to Atlanta, come out and join us. March upcoming events, we'll have a Women's History Month, and celebrating that, we'll have women leaders in cybersecurity to share their story. So more to come on that. And then lastly, ISACA Atlanta is having their Geek Week conference the 13th through the 15th of March and have provided discount codes for Cyversity members to attend. So that information was sent out in a newsletter as well as posted on the Slack channel. I would also like to take this opportunity to say, please check out Cyversity website. There are other upcoming Cyversity events out in the Bay Area. This afternoon, they're having an in-person celebration of Black History Month. And then we have a Saturday series coming up as well on this Saturday. So to Elias, Cameron, Solomon, Paul, and Kofi, thank you so much for this great opportunity. This was an awesome presentation. More to come on that. And to everyone else, thank you for attending today. Stay safe and stay connected until next time. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.